So today I have planned the most delicious Korean menu for you all. And with Korean meals, it is a little bit difficult because Koreans tend to have, like a lot of side dishes. Everything is there's like 20 different things on the table. So what I've managed to do is kind of isolate and segregate those typical breakfast, lunch, dinner recipes. And those are the ones that we're going to be making today. So for people who don't know what the Daily Dozen is, essentially it was created by Dr. Michael Greger, and it's a list of mainly things to eat, like 12 things to eat and to do to maintain just a really healthy life. And there's no surprises to this. It's beans, it's greens, you have your berries, nuts, seeds. These are all very basic things. You're going to be keeping a lot of the big diseases of the world, cancer, heart disease, dementia. You're going to be keeping those at bay. So I will include more information to the Daily Dozen and all of his How Not to Die books down below. So why I keep on doing the Daily Dozen year on year out is because it literally has changed my life. I'm going to put a time code so that for those of you that want to jump straight to over to the recipe, but Dr. Greger was the first person that I watched talk about health after my mom passed. Why I mention this is because over the holidays, and I'm so humbled that many of you decide to share your stories with me. I actually got a few people talking about either somebody in their family getting sick or somebody passing away, and that always stops me in my tracks. It's like being punched. You want to look for answers. For many questions, you don't have the answers to. But for food, hearing Dr. Greger talk about his How Not to Die book and literally going through the different, kind of big diseases, really the big diseases of the world, and talking about diet and talking about how this whole thing works in your body. These Daily Dozen recipes, you can get the cookbook, but the How Not to Die, the How Not to Diet ones, those are great references for health. I highly recommend it. A lot of the things that we do on this channel, it's a vegan channel, right? But a lot of it is fun. It is things that you might want to make once in a while. But the other 80-90% of your life, you should try to follow the Daily Dozen. It's funny because the Daily Dozen is so very simple. You just think of checking off those boxes, and even though it's so simple, sometimes it's really hard to follow, right? Sometimes it's really hard to eat well. So there are no secrets to living well. But just to kind of get into the habit of eating these good foods. So first up is that Korean rolled omelet recipe that I have already debuted for you all. It's actually made with mung beans, which have a ton of protein in them, a ton of fiber, and it is so delicious because you mix it with all of these different types of vegetables. I end up flavoring it with a little bit of Korean soybean paste, so it's just full of flavor. It is still super pretty to look at and super fun to make. Okay, so we're gonna prepare some vegetables first. In general, whatever you want. It's a great way, like a normal omelet, to stick in more vegetables. Okay, so now we are going to do the vegan omelet essentially. This is split mung beans, so it's already has the shell removed and everything. I have some onion powder, and then normally I'd use some garlic powder, but I actually minced up some garlic earlier, so. Usually what the Koreans will do is they will season their egg mixture with a little bit of shrimp paste just for salt. And we have the black salt already, just a little bit, but I'm also adding in a little bit of that soybean paste because that's gonna add some nice like savory flavors. Pretty much the thickness of this. Okay, so now we're gonna mix it with everything else. We're gonna use a non-stick, so we're gonna try it without oil first, but if it does stick to your pans, then feel free to just brush a little bit on. I'm just gonna, okay, yeah, that looks good. So I'm just gonna roll it like this. I'm gonna turn down the heat just a little bit, but that works. So for lunch, I have two special goodies for you guys. First up is I am bringing back that Korean tofu stew, Sundubu Jigae, just because it was so easy to make, it was so hearty, and you can just load it up with vegetables. The second thing, which is a little bit more of a midday snack, is I'm going to be making simple gimbap for you all. And the gimbap is going to utilize what Dr. Greger, I think in the How Not to Diet cookbook, he calls brawl, which is barley, rye, oats, and lentils. Only I've just substituted for a bunch of other whole grains to make this all work. So it's going to be a roll that is filled with all of these lovely mixed grains, and then also some really delicious vegetables as well. You can do this in a normal pot as well, obviously. Okay, so I'm just gonna start off with some sesame oil. Recipe is all gonna be down below. Medium high heat. Once that gets heated, I'm gonna throw in the crumbles. So now I'm going to put in my rice wine, chili flakes, chilies that I've cut up earlier. I might not use everything because, sorry guys, I'm not too good with spices, but you get to control it. Add about 400 milliliters of water. Okay, so I'm just bringing this up to a boil and we're cooking it for about maybe like 2 minutes or so. I just want to make sure that the zucchini is cooked, well, to the degree that you want. Okay, so now we add in the tofu. So the Koreans have this one where it's like in a tube, but we're gonna have to make do with, it's actually pretty much the same texture as this silken tofu, so see if I can be lazy and cut as it comes out. So this brawl recipe is a lifesaver, just like the date syrup recipe, because it lets you eat all of your grains. So Dr. Greger has the 4 that he put in the book, but essentially I just take 4 of whatever grains that I have. So barley, I also put in some lentils, some millet. You can put in sorghum, you can put in quinoa. And I just do a 1/4 cup of each and then double the amount about of water, and then I just cook it as normal. If you have any extra, just freeze it, but that's going to give you kind of a variety of grain that we will be using for the rest of the recipes today. So typically you dress this rice with a little bit of salt and then a little bit of sesame oil. If you don't want to use sesame oil, later on we talk about using like tahini, you can use that. And then what I'm doing instead of salt is putting in a little bit of that Korean soybean paste. So vegetables here are going to be up to you. Usually what I'll see is some carrots, some zucchini. I'm actually going to take some of that omelet that we had in the morning and then cut those into strips as well, because usually there's some kind of like an egg product in here. And what I end up doing with the spinach actually is a restaurant here called Jigae does this, where they just pour some boiling water over the spinach, and that little bit of heat just ever so slightly wilts the spinach, and then you can use it for this gimbap.
I don't think that I showed it too well for this one, but in subsequent rolls that I made, in order to get this to stick together, you really have to push down that ball because the ball is not as sticky as rice. So really pack it down there, or else you might get some loose pieces that come out when you cut.
So for dinner, one of my favorite things that I ate in Korea was that kind of springtime bibimbap, because it was really easy to make and it just contained like a lot of vegetables and it felt really fresh and not heavy. Once again, I'm going to be utilizing that multigrain as the base for my bibimbap. It's going to be loaded with vegetables and yeah, everything I'm pretty much trying to keep as whole food. So I hope you guys all enjoy.
So I thought maybe I could get away with not having to do a voiceover, but here I am. So I have a couple of, you can use fresh or dried shiitake mushrooms. This is gonna function very much as the protein. So dried shiitake mushrooms though will give you a little bit more bite. So it'll be kind of a little bit more meaty. So to keep this recipe whole food, instead of soy sauce, I am using 1 tablespoon of the Korean soybean paste along with 1 tablespoon of water and just using that as a replacement. That was a little bit of date syrup, so in place of sugar or in place of any other kind of syrup. Recipe is all going to be down below, and that is a very basic marinade for the mushrooms. Now it is time to make that spicy bibimbap sauce, and very importantly, I managed to find the Korean chili paste and the Korean soybean paste in a more whole food version. So it doesn't have all of the preservatives and the fillers, and I'll put a link down below of the brands that I kind of found. So this is the sauce. It's like garlic powder, onion powder. I have, again, that date syrup, and then along with some shiitake mushroom powder. And I just took a shiitake mushroom that was dried, I grated it. And that is kind of how I learned to make it in Korea. So the last thing is usually sesame oil. And what I've done here is put in good old tahini. It makes the sauce a little bit more creamy, but not really. I don't think that you'll be able to tell the difference, and it's going to be the whole food version of your sesame oil. So if you remember the first time I made this bibimbap recipe, I did this mushroom step right in the oven so that I didn't have to deal with the stovetop or anything. This time I'm just gonna cook it for a couple of minutes just to make sure all of the sauce gets absorbed into the mushrooms. It's a little bit drier. And instead of oil, we are going to just put in, a couple tablespoons of water every now and then just to make sure that nothing burns. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this one. I have the brawl rice mix on the bottom, some spinach, some carrots. This is some radish, some daikon radish. Really whatever you guys want. Usually it's like cucumber, you can put in zucchini, and then that really nice meaty mushroom mixture on top. And then you have your spicy sauce. So very yummy, but very, very easy. Lots of vegetables, it's great.
I hope you guys all enjoyed this Korean Daily Dozen menu. I had such a fun time planning it and making it, and if you have any suggestions or you want me to make a Daily Dozen from a particular cuisine, definitely let me know down below. Let me know over on Patreon as well. I hope you guys all have a lovely day, and I hope you guys all stay healthy. Okay, bye.